Yeah, definitely. I agree. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to post them. That's all the ones we've got at the moment, Sabina.
Perfect. Then let me quickly go into this 5-step method so that if you want to go and download the template, it makes sense to you. If you don't, then you'll at least have the headlines. The what if isn't really enough to build your story, because it's really just the focal point, the thing that will pull the reader or the listener or the viewer through from beginning to the end. But still, something has to happen in that story, obviously, because the what if is neither a beginning nor a middle nor an end. So when we look at even theatre, there are people who wrote fantastic plays like Shakespeare, but also like one guy who's like mostly forgotten. His name is Eugene Scribe. He wrote hundreds of plays and really fast and such high quality that the greats like George Bernard Shaw and so on, they actually stole his methodology of how to write good plays. And that's also the foundation of the 5 steps that I want to teach you today. So the first step is really your what if. It's often called a call to adventure, because the what if is like when you think of Lord of the Rings, you know, what if you suddenly had a magical ring and you have to bring it back to Mordor, or take it back to Mordor? Or what other stories can we look at? Harry Potter, you know, what if a little boy in a closet under the stairs finds out that he's this little wizard who's really there to save the magical world from an evil guy. So this is the call to adventure. That's your first step. The second step then is the response to that call. You know, at some point, people will, in your story, the central character will decide to listen to that call and go out on the adventure, and things go quite well at first. So write one sentence or two about what happens once you've responded to that call to adventure. For example, you know, making friends with the alien, something like this. Then you come to a midpoint, that's the third step, where all of a sudden going on is just as difficult as going back. And you're kind of stuck in the middle of the story. In the example of E.T., that would be where Elliot now loves E.T. so much that he's finding it really difficult to let him go. But at the same time, he already knows that E.T. has to go home because he's not, you know, he's not healthy and well while he stays on Earth. So it's as difficult to let him go as it is to keep him. And that kind of midpoint happens in every good story. So you should think about what that midpoint is in your story, in the story of your business, in the story of the world, in the story of your customer. What is that midpoint? And actually, that midpoint allows you to empathize so much more with your customer as well, because this is exactly the crux, you know? When they get to that midpoint, this is where also they're undecided, you know, should they take your solution or should they not? Should they buy from you? Should they not buy from you? Should they buy into your idea or not? Because it's not always an easy decision, especially when you're not already a conscious consumer. And then we get to step 4, where things are starting to go wrong. In the E.T. example, it would be where E.T. is dead, and the burglars break into Elliot's home, and everything just seems like, you know, it's going to go really like tits up. And fifth step is then where everything is resolved. There's like a final battle that can be an internal battle where somebody has to fight something out within themselves. But it really is the point where either you have great success or you manage to avert a tragedy. And I hope that in the bigger story of achieving the SDGs by 2030, you know, things are probably currently at 3 or 4, I think. That's how I feel about it anyway. So either it's like, you know, we can feel the pull in both directions, either moving in the wrong direction or moving in the right direction, and both seems difficult. A lot of things are already kind of looking as if they're going wrong, and I really hope that the final battle on the way to 2030 will avert the tragedy and mean that we can achieve great success. And we're all part of that, of this big story. So those are the 5 steps. I've made you a little worksheet for this. Very bad printout, but this is basically what it looks like. And there's also a second page to it with examples taken from ET, so you have a bit of an idea of how to fill it in. But I thought that